depressed people don't typically worry about what might happen to them in the future, but instead they think they already know what will happen and believe in it inevitably inevitably to be bad. Key symptoms include loss of interest and enjoyment in usual activities, lack of energy, and difficulty concentrating. Those are symptoms of the depression that we're talking about. Physical manifestations also differ between anxiety and depression. Those suffering from the later often experience severe appetite changes, headaches, sleep problems, while anxiety brings on side effects that resemble health disorders like sweating, shaking, heart rate, bowel issues, and hyperventilation. Overall, depression tends to have fewer physical symptoms, but the mental manifestations can be more dangerous than the outcomes of anxiety. And I do believe that. I do believe that because you can have things suicidal. Clinical clin, clinicians have observed that when anxiety and depression are present in one simultaneously, the symptoms of both are more severe. Okay, now they have drugs like Zoloft, Lopraxo, uh, Lovix, Praxil, Prozac, um, Cymbalta, Effector. Boy, they got all types of tetracyclic antidepressants, including Remeron. Now that's what they had me on. I was on a tetracyclic, and it was now that was all right because I was telling my therapist that I didn't need. I wasn't depressed. I just had this overwhelming anxiety, so she put me on that. Um, and what happened is really funny because I was on it for a while, and I didn't want anything to help to put weight on me because I'm like, you know what? I'm already dealing with the weight thing. I don't need anything else that's going to add that extra weight to me. She said, well, it might be some weight to gain. Anyway, so I went on it for a while. Then I decided, hey, I'm feeling beautiful. I'm feeling good. I don't need this anymore. I'm good to go. So I called my therapist on the phone. Hey, you know what? I don't need this medication because I'm feeling fine. And she was just like, okay, all right, Lena. You don't need it anymore. That's fine. So I said, I'm not going to get the prescription filled. I don't need this stuff. So that was before I decided to use prayer, okay? This was pre-prayer, okay? So so she said, yeah, so I'll call you if I need you, but I'm good. I'm good. And so a couple of months went by. I think maybe about 2 months or something went by without me having the medication in my system. All of a sudden, one day I just started feeling really strange. I felt violent. I felt like I wanted to either hurt something or someone or I was going to hurt myself, like I was going to kill a small animal. That's what I felt like. I just felt like, and I told my husband, I said, you know what, we need to walk. Let's just go for a walk, man. I just walked and walked and walked. And I just could not understand why I was feeling the way that I was. So when I talked to my therapist the next day, she said those were the effects of getting off the medication. She said don't hit you right away, but it hit you. And I'm just like, well, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to feel this way. I don't like this feeling. I did not like the way I felt. Um, and she put me on, I think, another one called, what's it? Zolac. It was something, one of these things. I don't remember what it was. And so I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to take this. Now, I'm not saying for you to do this if you're on medications. Don't do what I do because different things work for different people in different ways. And, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And I've seen them be moved. I've witnessed them, the miracle of what God can do. And so that I chose that path because I believed that I could um, conquer this. I did not need to be on medication, and it worked for me. It may not work for everybody else, but it worked for me. So that's what the difference is in the two of them. Now, you definitely want to make sure that you don't have any of these horrible signs. That's what I call it, the horrible signs. So here's some signs that will let you know if you have an anxiety disorder. So if you're kind of questioning it, whether you have it or not, here's some signs to help you figure it out. Now, I took this from something online. Anyway, I have all the links. I took this from something online. It says 12 signs you may have an anxiety disorder. And this was written by Amanda McMillan. And let's go ahead and dive into it. She says, what is normal? Everyone gets nervous, anxious from time to time. When speaking in public, for instance, or when going through financial difficulty. For some people, however, anxiety becomes so frequent or so forceful that it begins to take over their lives. How can you tell if your everyday anxiety has crossed the line into a disorder? It's not easy. Anxiety comes in many different forms, such as panic attacks, phobia, and social anxiety. And the distinction between an official diagnosis and the normal anxiety isn't always clear. Okay, so this will help you clear out whether you really have a disorder or whether it just comes in spurts. Like me, it hits me like a freight train, a certain thing, only on certain things like high things, bridges, tunnels, or gatherings where everybody's squished in. I can't do that. Here's a start. If you experience any of the following symptoms on a regular basis, you may want to talk to your doctor or your therapist or a psychologist. Child, you ain't crazy. It's just anxiety. Okay? Here you go. Excessive worry. That's one of them. The hallmark of generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, is the broadest type of anxiety. It's worrying too much about everyday things, large and small, but what constitutes too much? In the case of GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, it means having persistent anxious thoughts on most days of the week for 6 months. Also, the anxiety must be so bad that it interferes with daily life and is accompanied by noticeable symptoms such as fatigue. The distinction between an anxiety disorder and having normal anxiety is whether your emotions are causing a lot of suffering and dysfunction. This one is said by Sally Winston, who's a Psych D of Anxiety and Stress Disorder Institute in Maryland. So GAD is general anxiety disorder. So I guess that's what I have. I have GAD because it doesn't hit me all the time. Let me see. Means having persistent anxious thought on most days of the week. No, that's not me. For 6 months, no, it doesn't happen like that. So let me stop and diagnose myself with something. No, let's just cross that out. Okay, number 2 is having sleep problems, trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. It's associated with a wide range of health conditions, both physical and psychological. And, of course, it's not unusual to toss and turn with anticipation on the night before a big speech or a job interview or stage presence or something like that. But if you chronically find yourself lying awake, worried, or agitated about specific problems like money or nothing in particular, it might be a sign of an anxiety disorder. But by some estimates, fully half or all people with GAD experience sleep problems. Mm-hmm. Number 3, irrational fears. Some anxiety isn't generalized at all. On the contrary, it's attached to a specific situation or thing, like flying, animals, or crowds. If the fear becomes overwhelming, disruptive, and the way out of the and way out of proportion to the actual risk involved, it's a telltale sign of phobia, a type of anxiety disorder. That's what I have. I have phobias. I gave myself gag. No, I have phobias. That's called it's in line with irrational fear. Okay, although phobias can be crippling, they're not obvious at times. In fact, it says they may not surface until you confront a specific situation and discover you're incapable of overcoming your fear. A person who's afraid of snakes can go for years without having a problem, Winston says. But then suddenly their kid wants to go camping and they realize they need treatment. Yes. That's when the phobia set in. Actually, I discovered that I had mine when I was taking the MRI many years ago. When they put you into that a body scan thing, when they put you into that tube and you have to stay in there for about 45 minutes, and I was on regular therapy and I was going there on a regular basis, and I would just go to sleep in there because it was no problem. They would blanket me up. You were such a good patient, they told me, because I would just go in there and sleep for that little 45 minutes or something like that. I don't even remember. I think it was for my back because I had an accident, car accident or something like that. And one day, I woke up from my sleep and I felt like I was completely suffocating. At first I started knocking and I kept telling myself to calm down. And I realized that this feeling wasn't passing. So I was knocking gently to let them know, hey, there's something going on. I'm not feeling the way I usually feel. And they weren't hearing me. And I'm not saying they ignored me, as they weren't hearing me, the panic took over more, and it just overwhelmed to the part. I was in there kicking and screaming. I was like, "Get me out of here!" And it was crazy. And they looked at me like I was crazy because you know what? I had never did that before. But something took over me, and ever since then, I discovered that I had these things. I didn't know I had them. Okay, the next one is muscle tension. Near constant muscle tension, whether it consists of clenching your jaw, balling your fist, or flexing muscles throughout your body, often accompanies anxiety disorders. The symptom can be so persistent and so pervasive that people who have lived with it for a long time may stop noticing it after a while. Now, my husband, he don't want me to say he hates it when I mention his name, but I'm going to say this one thing. I have to say this. His is the jaw. It's a constant. It's a thing that moves. You can tell when he's aggravated or something like that. He tells me I don't know what I'm talking about, but everybody notices it. It's like, is he getting ready to blow or what? And that's all I'm going to say. Okay, it says regular exercise can help keep muscle tension under control, but the tension may flare up if an injury or other unforeseen event disrupts the person's workout habits. Winston says, suddenly they're a wreck because they can't handle their anxiety in a way and know how they're incredibly restless and irritable. Yeah, that's what you call the muscle tension anxiety. Okay, so we just heard, to go back over briefly what we just heard, see if you fit any of this. Excessive worry, that's when you know you have GAD. That's for most thoughts of, if you're thinking about it every day of the week for 6 months. And then we have sleep problems and irrational fears. Okay, so to continue. Chronic indigestion. There's a whole bunch of people out there with anxiety. Indigestion. Anxiety may start in the mind, but it often manifests itself in the body through physical symptoms like chronic digestive problems, IBS, irritated bowel syndrome, a condition characterized by stomach aches, cramping, bloating, gas, constipation, and or diarrhea. It's basically an anxiety and